Welcome to Emotion Ships, episode 8, where we talk about the real reason everything happens for a reason. I'm your host, Charlie Carroll, along with my lovely co-host. I need to work on a new word.
Why?
Well, I can't say lovely every time.
Why not? I'm not lovely every time.
I mean, you're definitely lovely, but
you need to pause and think about what you're saying.
No, well, I'm sure there are other ways to describe you other than
but
just
I'm just
lovely.
Now. We're 8 episodes in. This is just what I am.
There's going to be
now.
hundreds of episodes, Mal.
Okay.
There will be hundreds of episodes. We can't just be lovely. You have to be something other than lovely.
Says who?
My intelligent co-host,
Okay.
Mallory Redmond.
Okay.
My hardworking, hustling co-host, Mallory Redmond. I mean, my conscientious co-host.
Are you done?
No, I mean, I'm just thinking of all of the different ways that we can do this.
Well, you're just the co-host.
No,
or you're just the host.
I'm
you're
just
the
the host. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm the
definitely.
hostess with the mostess. Settle down, ladies and gentlemen. We are here, episode 8, Emotion Ships. It's been a bit. It's been a while.
Yes, we're back in action. Sorry about that, everybody.
Yes, just a little slight
We know
programming.
you've been waiting on pins and needles.
Yes, let us welcome in our lovely viewing audience. Hello, everyone. For those of you that are viewing us at or on emotionships.com.
We just cleaned the office for you.
We did. We cleaned the office up a little bit because my wife said it didn't look that great.
Yes.
So I just decluttered a little bit.
Yeah, it looks
But
great.
But we're here. We're back up. We're rolling. And we're live. Yeah, we're
not.
We're live. Well, I guess we're not live, are we?
We're not live for anybody except you and I.
Well, you can tell that it's been a little time.
We're a little rusty.
Yeah, let's cut to the chase.
Okay.
I'm washing my car this morning, and I have this thought.
That's really impressive. It's the middle of February.
Yeah, well,
I guess I haven't been outside today. Is it?
It's not
is it
too bad. It's
warm?
warmer.
Okay.
It's warmer here, 30s maybe.
Where did that come from? You're just like, I really want to wash my car?
No, it's been a couple of weeks since I washed my car, and for me to function at my best, all of my places need to be in order, clean and in order.
Which, let me stop you right there, champ.
Yeah.
Because if you look through at the videos of episodes 1 through 6 or 7, I don't know what episode this is.
This is 8.
Your office is a little cluttered. You just got
Well,
done saying that.
Right. But sometimes you have to work through it.
Okay. Okay.
But
Keep going.
you did not listen clear enough. Once again, you did not listen clear enough. I said for me to work at my best, my spaces have to be clean and organized. So
Good to
that is true.
Yeah.
I feel better about myself when my car is clean inside and out and there is no unnecessary debris.
Yeah. I remember you telling me a couple of years ago that you can gather a lot about a person based on the condition of their car.
Yes. It's
The
true.
inside of their car particularly.
It's true.
When I was in grad school, sorry, I'm really derailing us.
Please, go ahead.
But when I was in grad school in Seattle, I had this period of time where I really wanted to be like, just kind of like go with the flow. This is so not me. Go with the flow, just like easy breezy Mallory. And so I would purposefully try and messy up my car. I would like throw a bunch of stuff in the back seat because I wanted to just be like
wild and free.
Yeah. I just felt like a lot of like the really fun, cool people had messy cars, and I wanted to be one of them. Couldn't do it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, there's something to be said about an outward environment that can stimulate or help maintain an inward environment. And so I think it's a little bit of reverse engineering on my part, that if I can get my outside environment to include my office at home,
Yes.
my office at the different places I work
Uh-huh.
clean,
Uh-huh.
and then my car where I do a lot of business while I'm driving. I'm on the phone a lot. If I can get those to be clean and organized, everything in its place, it just helps me.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just me, but it
Yeah.
helps me.
No, it's not. Okay. So you're outside washing your car in the middle of February.
Yes. And the car wash that I go to, I love it because the owners put these really big buckets, like 10-gallon buckets, 4 of them out in front of the bay that you drive through to wash your car. And they put these big brushes in them for your tires so that you can clean your wheels and your tires very effectively.
Okay.
And it doesn't cost anything, which is another nice perk. And
Mhm.
so I have to be strategic as to what I'm wearing, especially with my shoes, because those brushes can go all over the place. So I had this thought today, I'm going to go a little slower with the brush
Mhm.
so I don't splatter everything everywhere, to include my shoes. And everything, like, it worked a lot better than it normally does when I am in a hurry. I pull up and I start scrubbing really hard,
Mhm.
really fast,
Mhm.
and things are going everywhere. And I had this thought that that there are things in life that are really rewarding, and so you want to get to them, and when you get to them, you want to move fast because you're so excited about the reward. But there are certain things in life that they're better when you go slower.
Mhm.
That
So true.
that if you just slow down, like even eating a meal.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? A lot of people, what's popular is intermittent fasting, where, you eat in a 6-hour window, 6 to 8 hour window. That's really popular right now, and super good for the body, right? Because food, no matter how healthy it is still attacked and looked at as an enemy to the body. And so when the body goes along a period of time without eating, the body can focus on repairing itself.
Okay.
And so even when it comes to food and you're really hungry because you've been intermittent fasting, or you skipped breakfast or lunch or whatever it is, that good steak or whatever it is, you tend to devour it. And you could go slower and enjoy more of it and savor your bites if you did not allow your desire to be full and to taste everything talk you into consuming it at a rate or pace that kind of ends up stealing things from you.
Right. Yep.
What are some of the things that you think of that are better slower? What other than food and my car wash analogy? You got anything off the top of your mind?
The only things that I was just talking to my husband. I don't think my girls are ever going to describe me as being a gentle mom.
Yeah.
You know how some mothers are like very gentle? I don't have that touch.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to get it done. And so when I'm giving Evie a bath, I just like am dumping water. I hope I don't get arrested or something for this. I know. I'm just like trying to wash her hair, and I just want it to be over with because it's not a fun process. And so I'm just like dumping water all over her, and she's screaming, and it would be a much easier process if I would just go slow.
Yeah.
But I don't want to because I hate
you want to
doing
get through it. But when Evie is going to get married or leaves the house for college or whatever it is, you will look back on those days and wish that you had taken your time.
Ugh.
And
don't do that.
Sorry.
Stop.
Yeah, it's true.
I know.
It's true, though.
I know. You know, the other thing I was thinking about is exercise.
Yeah.
Especially like as you're starting to get back into exercise, if you haven't been doing it for a while. When my now husband, Darren, when we first started dating, we went for a jog.
Yeah.
Together, like one of our early dates. I don't know why.
You're giggling.
We're just not joggers. I don't know what we were trying to impress each other, I think.
Right.
And so he's going to kill me for telling the story. But we went to this park and he's hauling, like he's going, and I'm like, I can't keep up with him. So I had to be like, I was very humbled, and I just like stayed back, and he was like way ahead of me, and we didn't even make it around the first curve, and he's like, he had to go back to the car and get his inhaler. He had to walk the rest of the way. Like he didn't start running again because he started off way too fast.
Now, did he impress you?
Initially, and
Yeah.
then when he's taking
like,
puffs of his inhaler, not so much.
Okay, buddy. Okay. I actually was just speaking with a friend who was doing a marathon with his brother, and his brother had never met or never done a marathon before, and my friend had, and he was talking about he accidentally started pacing with people that really knew what they were doing and who would ultimately end up, placing in the first dozens, places.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about the fact that it wasn't until he got to his first mile and they called out like 5 minutes and 45 seconds or so that he realized, he had just really done himself in. And so he said around the 5th mile, his younger brother, who had never really ran a marathon before, passes him and is laughing because he knew that he went too fast.
Right. Yes.
Right out of the gate.
Yes. It's really hard in any of these instances to like pace yourself.
Yeah.
Or to even understand like you need to slow down a little bit and to kind of find your rhythm at a slower pace.
Well, think about that as far as an overall life narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We are so quick to want, and this is the story of my life, that we are so quick, maybe not now, but definitely in my late teens and early 20s, like I wanted to be like the people that I was around or that I saw. And in doing so, I was completely unfair to myself. I just got off the phone while driving over here talking to someone, telling them that they have to embrace their journey. They have to embrace their story because they are hanging out with people that make 3 to 4 times the money they do, because those people are anywhere from 10 to 30 years older than they are.
Right.
And so it's just so not fair when you accidentally, through social media or whom you work beside or the culture you happen to be in, where you compare where you're at to somebody else's middle or end, right? Like you compare your beginning to someone else's middle or end, and you just find yourself never being present.
Yep.
And that's, peace exists in the present moment. Grace exists in this present moment. And it really is a masterful skill for you to be able to be present no matter what's going on.
Right. It's especially important in, every season of life. You're gonna wish your life away if you keep just trying to rush through wherever you're at to get to what's next. But it's really hard when you're doing things that you don't particularly love, like washing your wheels or whatever. But anything worth doing is worth doing well, and so it pays to slow down and just be where you are, like we talked about with the 20-mile march. But it can be really challenging when you're being where you are, and where you are is not where you want to be.
Well, but what people don't realize is being where you are often is the manifestation that comes from being where you did not want to be for decades. And so, it doesn't matter how many years you say, 10 is the common answer that I hear, or expression that I hear, that, every overnight success is 10 years in the making. I think that's really changed to be longer than that.
Perfect.
But we just get ourselves in a situation where we think, because we saw it in the life of someone else or on Instagram, that we can have that, and we don't realize that often to not only experience but maintain a level of life that is admirable that we see in someone else, the skills that are necessary for that take a lot of hard days, a lot of unfairness, a lot of fortitude, right? A lot of patience, all of those skills, and we just don't talk about that enough. I saw something that resonated a couple weeks ago with me from Gary V on Instagram. He said, if you don't learn to love the gutter, you'll never enjoy the mansion. Right? And that's true of things more than just houses. But it's true. And so often when I'm dealing with things that are tempting to alter my day and make it worse or have a negative outlook on it, I just remind myself, like, these are the actual glory days.
Mm-hmm.
These are the days that you look back on and are thankful for.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's some statistics out there that we miss about 80% of the details if we're not present.
Yeah.
And so you've got a 4x multiple there if you will just learn to be present and absorb everything where you are every day, whether you like it or not. It's a 4x. It's a multiplier for your potential.
I was just telling Darren this past week because both of our girls were sick. And so already we have 2 kids under 2, like it's total madness, right? But then when they're both sick, it's just like, it's miserable, right?
Right.
But it was Valentine's Day and we had to cancel our plans to stay home with the girls because they were sick. And I was telling him, like, there was a moment where we were all together. We were all in the living room and just being with one another. And I told him, like, these are the good old days. Like, we're in it right now because this is going to fly by.
Right.
They're going to, like you said, they're going to move out and we're going to, like, actually miss this chaos.
Yeah.
Like, we're living the good old days. And I tell that to people who are wanting to be married, because there was a long season of my life where that desire clouded everything else.
Yeah.
And now I look back on that season. I was living in downtown Seattle with my best friend. Like, life was so great.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't have this one thing that I wanted, but everything else was so good. And now that I'm where I'm at, I really miss those days.
Right.
Like, it was so
for
fun.
Sure.
And there was
For
so
sure.
much, there was just so much to be, like, so much life to be lived.
Yeah.
And so I try and tell that to people. And it's really hard when you have what someone wants
Right.
and you're telling them, like, you have, like, your life is so great.
Yeah.
Love it. Live, laugh, love. But it's true. Like, wherever you are, you're going to miss aspects of it when you're no longer there.
Yeah. I used to be the same way when I was playing soccer for a living.
Yeah.
I was a full-time athlete.
Yeah.
Living in the sunny South Florida, and trained every day, never missed a meal, right? And it was so good. But when I was there, I would just think about, oh, well, I want to be married. I want to have a family.
Right.
I wonder what I'm going to do in business or when I get done with soccer. And so I think the point is that we'll always have opportunities to wish our life away.
Yep.
And in doing so, miss out on a lot that we should be able to look back on, right, and cherish the days, because we were all there and learned or by faith believed that those days and that future will get to us in the right time anyways.
Right. Yep.
It's called, from a psychiatric or psychology standpoint, the term is, one of the terms for describing some of what we're talking about is vocalism. Have you heard of this?
No, I haven't.
When the story of Jacob and Esau in the Bible, Jacob is out and Esau ends up selling his birthright to Jacob,
Mm-hmm.
which was a big deal back in those days because Esau was the older son, which means he basically got twice as much inheritance-wise. And that tradition carried on into American culture for years, that the eldest son in the family would get twice as much as everyone else would. The rest would be split between everyone else. And just an old tradition that started back in the time of antiquity. And so as the story goes, Esau ends up being hungry, and Jacob has made food. And Esau comes in and he's starving, and he smells this food and says to his brother, if you'll just give me some of the food you made, which obviously they didn't have refrigerators in those days. I mean, their refrigerator was outside. It was a hole dug in the side of a mountain where the average temperature stayed about 55 to 60 degrees. And so food on the spot was not uncommon. And so Esau says to his younger brother Jacob, if you will just give me your food, I'll give you my birthright. And he ends up giving his younger brother that rightful position where he gets twice as much of his father's inheritance, which his father was well off when it came to livestock and land, and hated his brother for a lot of the rest of his life because he made a decision in the moment that seemed like it was so important, but it's because he lacked perspective.
Yeah.
And so they call it vocalism, where we focus in so tight on something that we can't back up and say, okay, hold on a second. This isn't going to make sense to give into my appetite right now, right? Whether it's a physical appetite for food or it's anger because someone has done something to you.
Yeah.
Think of all of the people that in a moment of anger has done something that cost them the rest of their life, or in some cases cost them their life.
Yep.
Right. And so it's one of the reasons why discipline is an important thing, is because we need to protect ourselves from ourselves. Because at any given time, we can wish our life away by putting ourselves, at least through our thoughts, in the future versus being present.
Yeah. Yeah, I try not to make any major life decisions when I'm hungry.
Oh man, you're not kidding. Or going to the grocery store.
Yeah, right.
Just
the difference.
It's just crazy. From the standpoint of, use something practical like the grocery store. Again, I've seen a number where your bill goes up by 30 to 50% if you go hungry versus if you eat and then go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Think about, this idea, getting back to what I observed today with scrubbing my little wheel, right? It's better to go slow. You get more benefits out of going slow and better results out of going slow, though you feel the pressure to go fast. I mean, think of that from a sexual standpoint, right? Not just healthy sexual relationships, right? That making love is better when you take your time and draw it out through foreplay and everything else, which is maybe a whole nother episode in and of itself.
Sure.
But think of all of the business that is built around just through pornography, luring people into instant gratification. Right. Which what is not said there, but is actually being said, is you deserve to have what you want when you want it, as fast as you want it, and to have it accessible with you at any given point in time.
Yep.
It's an interesting thing, because the truth of the matter is, and I've been talking about this a decent amount recently, is curiosity and an appetite is what God put in us. Those two things is what God put in us to lead us forward and to grow us.
Right.
That you can't go on a personal development or growth journey without your curiosity or your appetite being appealed to. Right? Those are the components. Like if we were a phone, hardware wise, those are the components that curiosity, could things be better? Right? That's kind of the question that asks, could there be more? Right? That's a curiosity thing. Creates an opportunity or a space for us to move forward into. I think of Tiger Woods, who just was playing out at Riviera Country Club in California, who started there 28 years ago as an amateur at 16. The guy had won like 8 out of the last 11 majors when he went to Butch Harmon, who was his swing coach, really famous swing coach, and said, I want to change my swing. And Butch said, we're not changing your swing. Like, you're on pace to be the greatest player of all time. There's no point in changing your swing. Is there a chance that we could make a few things better? Of course there's a chance. But there's probably a greater chance to do more harm than good. And Tiger said, roundabouts, he said, I still want to change my swing. And Butch was so adamant about it. He said, not under me. He said, I won't do that to you. I'm not going to allow you to change your swing. And Tiger left him.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, and that kind of...
And he changed his swing?
He went to Hank Haney. And now some people would say that Tiger, after 10 years, has come back to having a swing more like he originally had with Butch. But
Interesting.
he won with Hank Haney here and there.
Yeah.
But it also led to a number of other things. And the idea just comes back to, at some point in time, our best has to be good enough. And we cannot allow the curiosity as to, could I have a little bit better swing? Could I make it just a little bit better? Or the appetite to be better or to accomplish more pull us out of center and so get us so narrowly focused that we can't win.
So how do you know? Like, how do you know when your curiosity is going to take you to a place you shouldn't go?
Well, I think embracing slow is really a habit that protects us when it comes to our curiosity and our appetites. For example, if you're doing intermittent fasting, right, and you're really hungry, then and this happens to me, when you walk in the door at 5:30 or 6 o'clock or whenever you walk in the door for dinner, don't start snacking because you're starving.
Yeah.
Wait an extra 30 minutes until dinner is ready. And the whole point of the intermittent fasting is not only so your body is healthier, but so that you enjoy that one meal that you are eating.
Right.
And so sometimes I undermine my intermittent fasting by picking up a bag of chips or, cheese and crackers and start eating and very quickly sufficing that appetite. If you go to the sexual side of things, one of the things that I've realized in being a professional counselor per se over the years, especially when it comes to sexually oriented things like affairs, is we clearly do not understand that God gave us curiosity and appetites to help us and to grow us and to make us feel fulfilled. But if we don't understand them, when our appetite or curiosity drops, we might be, a lot of people have been in the situation where they blame the person they are with, and instead of being patient and re-engaging and going deeper with that relationship, they look to somebody else, maybe somebody they're working beside and spending a lot of time with, or someone that's just different than who they've been with, and they say, oh, I'm hungry. Clearly this person is not doing it for me. I'm going to go with that person. And then they're with that person, and after a period of time, their curiosity drops because they've gotten to know them a little bit. Their appetite is fulfilled, and then it starts to drop naturally, and they say, oh, this person is not fulfilling me. I'm going to go on to the next person. Mm-hmm. And I think the point is, it's not the person. The problem is not the person. The problem is you don't understand that God gave you curiosity and an appetite that he made to be really full and really empty. And the emptier it becomes, the more potential for it to be really full. And the more full it becomes, and when it is really full, the more rewarding and fulfilling it will be for you. Yeah. It's not the person. The problem's not the person. Yeah. The problem is you don't understand the role of curiosity and appetites that God has given us. And I can just say that from seeing adultery everywhere, seeing adultery in my family, my wife's family, counseling many couples and many families through it over the years. Mm-hmm. Right? It's a curiosity and appetite thing. Like these are things that have been given to us to bless us. And so, getting back to the original statement, there are certain things in life that were made to be done slowly. And learning to be present is so important. And learning to work with your appetite and with your curiosity is like paramount.
So what do you say to somebody who currently is experiencing low curiosity, or maybe low curiosity?
Well, if someone were to say to me that their curiosity or their appetite is all screwed up, I would definitely believe them, because what we end up doing is when we don't identify the source, we end up trying to mess with the manifestation of those things being offline or not working. Some of the things that I would say is you have a breaker that trips, an electrical breaker in your body that trips called your endocrine system or your HPA axis is what the medical community identifies it as, and that's your hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal glands, and those things manage your excitement and your emotional willpower, and so you need to. I know Body Garage Dayton has a kit. You can go to bodygaragedayton.com and they have a kit you can buy to get that back online. But if all of life is dull and it's staying dull and flat, more than likely because of American culture, you are offline. Your endocrine system, which is the same as your HPA axis, is offline and it needs to be brought back online. Mm-hmm. It could also be there's this micro-macro thing going on when it comes to our sense of peace and joy and excitement for life, that if you stay down long enough, or let's say there's a preceding step. If you get used to Cool Whip, like this is the way God made the body. If you stop going deep and you lose your willingness to go deep with someone, and you just jump around from one place or one person to the next person, your body will become immune to anything. And so let's just call it a one-night stand. If you go from trying to go deep to you realize you can get a little adrenaline rush and boost with a one-night stand, what you'll eventually learn is that you become immune to the one-night stand and cannot get up for any relationship because you conditioned yourself to be nothing but excitement and nothing but the icing on the cake per se.
Yeah. People just listening can't see your air quotes.
Oh yeah. Well, people that are watching
can see my... He's doing a bunch of air quotes, you guys.
Air quotes.
Yeah. Yeah, so if if in a relationship, both people have stopped pursuing one another, which is common. Yeah, sure. But their appetites are high. So maybe curiosity's low, appetite's high. Well, can they of course. Be? Yeah. Of course. The lower your, and that's the way that God made them, your systems, that your curiosity is not that great when your appetite is high or has been fulfilled, right? So you go and eat the meal of your dreams. Yeah. You're not daydreaming about food, and the posts that you see on Facebook or Instagram or wherever you see them are not appealing to you. Yeah. But the moment your appetite goes down, your curiosity goes up like a teeter-totter, and now all of a sudden you're licking your phone over these Instagram posts of food. Yeah. Right? And so if you get a couple where the appetite is has not been fulfilled, right? So the appetite is empty, and now the curiosity is high because they want to fill up their appetite. The question is, and this is like what I talk to married couples about, is what are you doing to pursue the other person? And all of us are guilty of this. I often say in premarital counseling that I do, right? When you get married, I do, doesn't mean I don't have to pursue you anymore. Yeah. We kind of mess that one up. If anything, the pursuit should increase and intensify. In American culture, it's the opposite. I've got them, they're mine, we have the same last name, I don't have to pursue them anymore. Right. And so when the pursuit of intimacy, right, knowing and being known, drops, of course you're going to look and say, well, they're not doing it for me anymore. Well, it's not that they can't, because like you, they too should be evolving to become a new person with new desires and new outlooks on life. But if we're not pursuing one another, then we're not going to know that, and we're not going to know that new person, and that old person that we once knew or that we once pursued won't do it for us. Yeah. The way that God laid it out is that we on an individual level are being made new all the time, that we're growing and evolving all of the time, and that's an invitation for our significant other to learn and to know who we are as we grow and evolve and learn to grasp and share the beauty of life more and more. Yeah. I think, and because I've heard you talk about this a little bit in the past month or so, an important distinction is This is not just for married couples or people in relationship, this
Right.
conversation. And two, it doesn't necessarily, we're not just talking about your curiosity taking you to pornography, how we traditionally, like watching naked people have
Sure.
sex.
Yeah.
Well, obviously they're naked if they're having sex.
I mean,
Watching people have sex.
yeah. The idea with pornography is just that. I mean, the word pornography comes from the Greek word porneia, which when you really boil it down and look into it, it just means a substitute image. And where I kind of get feisty, especially with the church world or the faith community, is that we have limited pornography to just naked people having sex. But pornography is much greater than that. Pornography happens all the time. Anywhere there's a picture of someone else's life.
And I think that's what's so important for people to understand who might hear the word pornography and kind of tune you out because it's like, well, that's not my issue.
Sure.
But we're sort of broadening the conversation to say, like, yeah, it's actually all of our issues.
Yeah, pornography is an issue for everyone. It's a substitute image, and really what that means is it's anything that we would look to and try to embrace in order to make our life better because that image is not there yet, right? And so it's not necessarily around bad things, but it can be looking at another person's outfit, another person's home, another person's car, another person's job. It's just looking at a substitute image. Well, the substitute image is something else that the actual image that image is trying to be a substitute for is right where you are, which is exactly what we were talking about, being present. That the key here to avoid the dangers of, pornography, a substitute image, is by learning to be present. When we're not present, which a lot of us struggle to be present in our life, it's because a substitute image, whether it be a healthier image, a safer image, a more financially secure image, has pulled us out of our present reality. But our present reality is where all of our potential is. Right. That's where all of your future potential is in your present reality. Yep. And so it's learning to be present and not give in to those substitute images. We see a substitute image in the Garden of Eden, right? God makes this wonderful creation and says to Adam, like, you can have anything you want, but there is a tree in the middle of the garden that I want you to trust me about and stay away from. It's not good for you. And in that moment, the serpent comes to Adam as it goes and says, hey, I think God was holding back on you. I think he just doesn't want you to compete with him and be God yourself. You should try this. And it's a substitute image. And the substitute image is, can my life be better, right, if I do it my own way and choose my present reality or strive towards something different than what I'm currently experiencing? And there's nothing wrong with doing a vision board or getting a sense for where you want to be 5 years from now or 20 years from now, right? That's what we're talking about with the 20-mile march.
Yep.
But that's different because those are goals and things that you think, places that you think your life needs to be 20 years from now. But you realize in order to get there, you have to be present where you currently are, because where you currently are is preparing you to have the skills and the mindset and the thoughts to be where you need to be when you need to be there.
Yeah. So it's having an awareness of where you want to go while being fully where you are right now.
Correct. Learning.
Because that can be a really hard distinction to make.
I think so. There's nothing wrong with storyboarding or having a vision for or having goals written out. That's all great.
Sure.
But it just cannot pull you out of the present. Like, you're not going to look at a certain house online and then sit on your hands and that house is going to come to you.
Right.
Right. So it's learning to have those goals that are healthy and not motivated by false things. Like, happiness is not a pursuit, it's a result. Very few people that pursue being happy, and we see these people everywhere, are ever happy. Happiness is a result of pursuing the things that you're supposed to pursue. And that's a journey in and of itself, just to say and to partner with God and say, like, what is my life about? How did you make me? What am I supposed to experience? How do I live a life bigger than I could live on my own with your help?
Yeah.
And to kind of chart that out and journal that out and learn to work toward it without without missing out on what is right in front of you. You see that in the life of Joseph, that Joseph was always present. And because he was present, whether he was out in the field, tending to his father's livestock, unfairly thrown in a pit, falsely accused and put in prison, or eventually arriving to the palace and ruling on the throne, he learned to be present and to embrace, same as Nelson Mandela, learned to be present and embrace what was in front of him, believing that life was happening for him, not to him. And because he believed life was happening for him, he allowed today and being present in today to prepare him for what was to come.
Yeah, that's good. Mm-hmm. So how do you start to figure out if you have a substitute image, or like what your substitute images are that you're looking towards? Because I think sometimes they can be so embedded, like so ingrained in us, in our lifestyle, that we're not even aware.
Yeah. Well, I think the answer to that is you monitor your sense of peace, contentment, and joy and excitement. Those are the 4 things that I would say: peace, joy, contentment, excitement for life. Yeah. If I had to boil it down into 2 things, you've heard me talk, and I've mentioned it on this podcast before, your enthusiasm versus exhaustion meter. Yeah. I can remain enthusiastic even with a ton on my plate and not always feeling the best if I'm present. But the moment I get sucked out of being present because some fear, some worry, some anxiety is pulling me into the future or pushing me into the past, then I start to live and lean into the exhaustion side of the meter.
Don't you think that a substitute image, or going after, like trying to fill your appetite with something that you shouldn't be, can make you feel enthusiastic?
Well, again, we're talking about a very fine line here. That let's say that you've worked in the restaurant industry your whole life, and you feel like you are supposed to open your own restaurant or your own food truck, right? Mm-hmm. It's one thing to lay it out and say, okay, here's what I feel called to. Here's what I feel like I'm supposed to do. Here's where I'm at. What do I need to do today to prepare me for that tomorrow? And you can be excited. And there's a verse that says, without vision, people perish, right? Without a long-term goal, people suffer, because we were made to be hopeful. And the definition of hope is a great expectation. We were made to be that way, and we were made to have vision out in front of us. But again, the trick to that, or the key to that, is understanding that in order to get there are steps daily that I have to take, and I can only take them when I'm present. Right? And so there's nothing wrong. Like, I'm working on several projects right now that probably will be years until they're forward facing and they're launched to the public. Yeah. And they get me excited when I think about them, but I've also learned to pull back my excitement, because if I get too carried away with my excitement, I won't have the levels of concentration and focus today that I need to have in order to make them a reality tomorrow.
Yeah. I think that's so important, because like you said, the substitute image doesn't have to be a bad thing.
Of course not.
But if we are not, I think it can easily, something that is healthy and good for us we can kind of veer and start doing it for the wrong reasons. Or Sure. If we lose our sense of presence, then all of a sudden we find that we're doing something to be filled with a level of satisfaction that like isn't right.
Right. Yeah. I mean, again, life is in the details here. And in order for me to be healthy, I have to find the balance between knowing what I'm called to and how to live a rewarding, fulfilling life by reaching for the things that only a life with God can accomplish, but then also find the balance to own today and to be present today to acquire the skills that I will need tomorrow by what is in front of me. And that's, again, it's learning to believe in the power of every moment, that there are no accidents, there are no coincidences. And that's why we talk about like the real reason that life happens for a reason is because there is all of this energy all around us on a daily basis that we need to tap into. And as we tap into it, it will prepare us as we respond to it with a healthy attitude to be ready for tomorrow.
Yeah. And it can sound, some of this can sound overwhelming, like a lot
Sure,
to be aware of and to constantly be kind of navigating. Am I doing it right, so to speak? But I think it goes back to like taking that withdrawal time that we talked about. And like that can sort of center you every single day as long as you kind of keep that time protected.
Correct. Withdrawing every morning to kind of get your head screwed on straight and learn to be led by your beliefs versus your feelings is super important. The other side of it is embracing who you are and embracing your journey and refusing to allow your sense of security or your sense of well-being or your value to be determined by that big vision and what you can accomplish. Again, you can argue both sides, but the answer is found in the middle. Yes, you were meant to accomplish big things. Yes, you were meant to be and live a rewarding and fulfilling life. But at the same time, it's not having a rewarding or fulfilling life or doing big things that makes you valuable. This is a concept and an aspect of being present. You can only be president when you president. You can only be president. Election's coming up. You can only be present when you are content with yourself. People that don't like themselves can't be present.
They could be president, though.
They probably.
Yeah.
But you're always striving for that next thing. You can never be present. And so you stay in this negative cycle where you can't grow and you can't change and your view of you does not change because you don't understand that the only way to be present is to be content with who you are and how you were made.
Yeah. Which, I mean, especially this day and age, you have to really work hard to figure out what works for you. Like maybe you need to not be on social media. Like it's okay to just cancel your social media accounts, right?
Yeah,
like
for sure.
That it just might not be very healthy for you, or to take a season away from it or whatever. But I think it's all the more work these days to do what works for you in order to have the healthiest perspective.
Yeah. It took me a while listening to other people that were quote unquote successful, right, in their area of specialty or field when they would talk about embracing who you are. And I would always think like, oh, easy for you to say you're a New York Times bestseller type of thing. But they are right in that the opportunity to be pulled out of the present moment if you are not happy with who you are and how God made you is enormous. And so part of fulfilling your destiny is learning how to look in the mirror and like what God made, learning to hear your voice and like how God made you to sound. And then what we know from a biological standpoint, looking at your neuropeptides, which is kind of your energy, how your energy moves throughout your body and then helps you as you navigate through this world. Your cells, every one of your 350 trillion cells are listening to your words. And they know your thoughts. And you need to be your biggest cheerleader. You need to be your biggest fan.
Yeah, I think about that because now I have 2 daughters, and our oldest, Evie, I've noticed that she watches me when I look at myself in the mirror.
Oh, yeah.
And so I've been very conscious of like even my facial expressions, but also the things that I say when I can see my own reflection. But the truth is, I'm not only doing that for her, I'm doing it for me too. It matters for me as well. It's really hard to get to a point where you understand that. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, the energy that mothers put off for their daughters is insane.
I know.
I mean, I remember when Kate, who is now 9 years old, said to her mother and I that she said that she did not like herself because she was ugly.
Oh, gosh.
And it's just like, who in the world told you that?
Yeah, seriously.
And so the opportunity for mothers is to not try to talk your daughters into anything, but to learn to be content and like what you see and like how God made you when you look in the mirror.
Yep.
Right. And that I just got done telling someone yesterday that if you do not learn to love yourself, others will have a hard time doing it.
Yeah.
And it sounds foo-foo and goofy to say learn to love yourself. Well, if you didn't create you and someone else created you, it makes a whole lot of sense that you need to learn to embrace how your creator made you. And you need to understand that if your creator says you're beautiful and unique and special, then whether you feel or think that way or not, you are.
Yeah. It's true.
And so in that sense, more is definitely caught than taught. And as you heard me say it at one of the teaching opportunities over this past weekend, parenting is so much about who you are. I'm convinced that it's 90 to 95% of who you are and the environment that you're creating through your energy versus your beliefs and what, in a lot of cases it's what you think you believe and that you share with your kids, but your energy doesn't support your supposed beliefs.
Right. It's kind of a relief.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be a relief.
Yeah.
The good news is you'll reproduce after yourself. The bad news potentially is you will reproduce after yourselves.
Yeah.
And that's why we see some of these, things repeating themselves generation after generation, because we think as long as our hate for how we turned out is expressed through our words, that will be enough for our children. And it's not the case. Your energy speaks louder than your words.
Right. Yep.
Episode 8, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. We will be back soon, hopefully later this week.
We'll see.
Emotion chips. The real reason everything happens for a reason.